Grandpa Eddie had survived the Great Depression, 2 wars, and 43 years of marriage to a woman who could burn water. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for being told he wasn't premium enough for a slice of his own damn birthday cake. "I'm sorry, Grandpa," 17-year-old Madison said, actually blocking the refrigerator with her designer-clad body. "But Mom specifically said these eclairs are for premium people only. You know, people who contribute to the household in meaningful ways." Eddie stood there in his worn flannel shirt and slippers, his 79th birthday having concluded exactly 14 minutes ago, staring at his granddaughter like she'd just spoken ancient Sumerian. Behind her, through the glass refrigerator shelves, he could see the chocolate eclairs he'd watched his daughter Jennifer order from that fancy French bakery downtown. The ones he'd mentioned wanting to try. The ones that cost $7 apiece. "Premium people," he repeated slowly, tasting the words like they were spoiled milk. Madison didn't even have the grace to look embarrassed. She examined her acrylic nails, each one apparently cost more than his first car, and shrugged. "It's not personal, Grandpa, it's just, you're retired. You don't really add value anymore, you know. These treats are for people who are actually doing things. Mom works hard. I'm in my senior year. We deserve premium rewards." Eddie had moved in with his daughter and granddaughter 6 months ago after Margaret passed. The house had felt too big, too empty, too full of ghosts. Jennifer had insisted, promising it would be good for everyone. He'd believed her. He'd sold the house he and Margaret had bought in 1968 for $67,000, split the considerable profit with Jennifer, despite her protests that she deserved it all for providing elder care, and settled into the basement bedroom with his books and memories. He did the grocery shopping every Tuesday and Friday. He cooked dinner 4 nights a week, real food, not the processed garbage Jennifer called meal prep. He kept the yard immaculate, fixed things when they broke, and paid 1/3 of the utilities without being asked. But apparently, that didn't make him premium. "I see," Eddie said quietly. "Well then, good night, Madison." He turned and walked toward the basement stairs, his joints protesting the descent. Behind him, he heard Madison open the refrigerator and the clink of a plate, the soft, satisfied sound of someone biting into an eclair, his eclair, from his birthday dinner. Eddie sat on the edge of his bed, Margaret's quilt still on top, her pillow still smelling faintly of her lavender hand cream, and did something he hadn't done since the funeral. He cried. Not loud, wrenching sobs, but quiet tears that rolled down weathered cheeks and into his white beard. Then he opened his laptop. By morning, Eddie had a plan. By noon, he had 3 appointments scheduled. By dinner, everything was in motion. "Dad, you seem chipper," Jennifer said suspiciously that evening, watching him whistle while he seasoned the pork chops. She'd gotten home from her job at the insurance company and immediately collapsed on the couch, scrolling through her phone like the device might contain the meaning of life. "Just a good day," Eddie said. "Beautiful weather, talked to some old friends." What he didn't mention was that one of those old friends was Harold Chen, his former business partner from the construction company they'd run together for 30 years. Harold, who'd been begging Eddie to come out of retirement and consult on a massive development project. Harold, who'd offered him a salary that made Eddie's military pension look like pocket change. Or that another friend was Rita Morrison from his church, who ran a non-profit providing housing for veterans. Rita, who'd been searching for someone to manage their new transitional housing facility, someone responsible, organized, and who understood what soldiers needed. Rita, who'd practically begged Eddie to take the position when he'd called. The third call had been to Tom Bridges, his lawyer. That conversation had been the most interesting of all. "So you'll be moving out?" Madison asked at dinner, having apparently overheard part of a phone conversation. She didn't look up from her phone. "Thinking about it," Eddie said mildly. "Found a nice senior community, independent living, but with amenities." "Oh, Dad, that's wonderful." Jennifer's relief was palpable and insulting in equal measure. "I've been so worried about you being lonely down in that basement. This will be much better for you." She didn't ask about the details, didn't ask if he could afford it, if he'd need help moving, if he was sure. She just looked delighted at the prospect of having her house back, of reclaiming that basement for a home gym she'd never use. Eddie smiled and passed the green beans. 3 weeks later, on a crisp Saturday morning, Eddie stood in the driveway while two young men from the moving company loaded his furniture into their truck. Not much, just his bedroom set, his books, his tools, and the boxes of photographs and mementos from his and Margaret's life together. Jennifer watched from the porch, coffee in hand, in her silk pajamas that cost more than Eddie's monthly food budget. "Now, Dad, you'll come for Sunday dinners, right?" she called out. "You're always welcome here." Eddie paused in the act of handing over a box of Margaret's china to one of the movers. He looked at his daughter, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in months. He saw the woman who'd asked him to move in not out of love or concern, but because she'd wanted help with her mortgage and someone to do the housework she was too busy to handle. The woman who'd taught her daughter that human worth could be measured in dollar signs and job titles. The woman who'd forgotten that the old man, paying a third of her utilities, had built a business from nothing, raised her in a loving home, and sent her to college debt-free. "No," he said simply, "I don't think I will." Jennifer blinked. "What?" "I said no, I won't be coming for Sunday dinners. You see, Jennifer, I've learned something important these past few weeks. I've learned that I'm not premium enough for your household. And you know what? You're absolutely right. I'm not premium, I'm luxury, I'm top tier. I'm the limited edition vintage model that people pay extra for because they recognize true quality." He walked over to the porch, moving slowly but with purpose. "I'm also too expensive for your Sunday dinner table," he continued. "My time, my energy, my company, they cost more than you're willing to pay. The price is respect, gratitude, and basic human decency. You can't afford me anymore." "Dad, this is ridiculous. Madison didn't mean." "Madison meant exactly what she said, and she learned it from you." Eddie's voice was gentle but firm. The voice he'd used when Jennifer was 16 and had wrecked the car while drunk. "You want to know what I've been doing these past 3 weeks? I took a consulting job, 3 days a week, $10,000 a month. I also took a position managing a veterans housing facility. That's another job that actually matters, helping people who served their country. And I joined the board of 2 nonprofits." Jennifer's coffee mug had stopped halfway to her lips. "The senior community I'm moving into, it's not a retirement home. It's a luxury condo building, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths with a view of the lake. I'm also taking that cruise to Alaska that your mother and I always planned, first class. And I'm signing up for the woodworking classes I've been putting off. Oh, and I'm donating a significant amount to the library in your mother's name. They're naming the children's section after her." He smiled, and it was perhaps the saddest smile Jennifer had ever seen. "You taught Madison that people are only valuable when they're profitable, when they're producing, when they meet some arbitrary standard of premium. So I'm showing you both what premium actually looks like. It's not designer handbags and expensive coffee drinks. It's a life well lived, contributions that matter, and the wisdom that comes from decades of experience. Your mother understood that. I thought I taught you that. I was wrong." Madison had appeared in the doorway behind her mother, face pale. "The really sad thing," Eddie continued, "is that you had something precious. You had someone who loved you unconditionally, who would have done anything for you, who did do everything for you. Your mother and I sacrificed so much to give you advantages we never had, and you turned that into an entitlement so deep you can't even see how cruel you've become." "Grandpa," Madison's voice was small. Eddie looked at his granddaughter. "You're 17, Madison. You have time to become a better person than your mother is raising you to be. I hope you take that opportunity, I really do. Because right now, you're not premium, you're not even bargain basement, you're just mean." He turned back to Jennifer. "I've arranged to have my mail forwarded. My lawyer has the new address. I'll be available by phone for emergencies, real emergencies, not can you come fix the sink emergencies. But otherwise, I think we need some distance." "Dad, you're being dramatic." "No, Jennifer, I'm being dignified. There's a difference. One day, maybe you'll learn it." The last box went into the truck. Eddie climbed into his car, the sensible sedan he'd maintained meticulously for 12 years, and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, he saw Jennifer standing on the porch, still holding her coffee, looking confused and angry. Madison had sat down on the steps, face in her hands. Eddie pulled out of the driveway and didn't look back. 6 months later, Eddie was having the time of his life. The consulting work was challenging and rewarding. The veterans he worked with reminded him why he'd served, and helping them rebuild their lives gave him purpose. His condo was filled with light and laughter. He joined a poker group, hosted book club meetings, and had even been on 3 dates with a lovely woman named Susan who taught yoga and made him laugh. His phone rang one Sunday afternoon, Jennifer's number. He stared at it for a long moment before answering. "Hello." "Hi, Dad." Her voice was different, smaller. Could we talk in person? Madison would like to see you too, if that's okay, if you're not too busy." Eddie looked out his window at the lake, at the life he'd built, at the second act he'd written for himself. "I have time," he said finally, "but Jennifer, when you come, bring yourself, the real you, not the premium version. That's the only price of admission." There was a long pause, and then, for the first time in years, he heard his daughter cry. "Okay, Daddy," she whispered. "Okay."